Right.
That's what I'm looking for from this agency. Also, is not just electrification or the drayage truck, whatever, but also in balance with is a best value automatic impact is reducing the congestion out of our ports for throughput, for the economy, everything that's the quality of life for the surrounding neighborhoods. So
absolutely.
that's something that I'm very, very passionate about on the short term.
And
long-term goals are absolutely essential, but I think we can gain and get better value with an investment outside the gate too.
Yeah, we've had a lot of conversations with folks that are in the goods movement industry about some of the challenges about reducing that congestion, and I think you're well aware it's a very complex system that operates. It's moving the freight in and out of the ports, and it's something that we've been talking a lot with Caltrans, and we've been talking with GoBiz about. Our board member, Dr. Dan Sperling from UC Davis, is actually heading up a work group looking at efficiency in the freight sector. Efficiency to us is definitely that win-win-win, where you save money, you save time, and you save money, time, and emissions. Those are all really good things. So we are looking for those kinds of solutions, and we really look forward to your input as we move forward on the sustainable freight strategy.
Love to partner with you on that aspect.
Great.
Because, like I say, we can do all we can inside that gate, but if that truck's idling on the outside of that gate, we've gained absolutely nothing.
Absolutely true. Thank
so
you.
We're going to move on. I appreciate your high-level outlook on the ports and vessels. We're going to move now to public comment and look forward to any input from the public. Anybody have any questions of the panel? I'm sorry, I put the cart before the horse. Yes, ma'am.
To Mr. Corey, you mentioned that you have made adjustments when, certainly during the recession and when there was input from the various stakeholders. It would be important for us to have some indication of what those were, and if you could provide that to us, certainly in writing and to members of this committee, because that tells me that you are responding to public comment that come at the hearings, and we hear a lot in our districts that you're not. So if you could give us a list or some sort of indication of where, when and where that happened, and to what degree you've found that really responded to the public input that you received at your various hearings on those subjects of cost impact.
Happy to do it. I was talking about the truck and bus reg, but we'll lay that out and get that information to you.
In a matrix would be very helpful.
Senator Bell.
I don't think you're going to answer my question now, but I want you to. We're embarking on a lot of discussion about the financing of transportation. And our goal is to maximize federal funds, opportunities for financing, taking advantage of the FAST Act, the new federal transportation 5-year law. It involves transit, replacement of obsolete buildings. It involves ports, these kinds of activities. When we talk about those things, we need to have information that shows our projects in the best light to the federal agencies so we can competitively maximize the return to the taxpayers of California with projects. Rather than have the money go to some other state, we would like to have the money come here. The other thing I think is important to realize is that if we can use our resources to match federal grants or financing, which I mean by financing like the Transportation Infrastructure Financing Improvement Act, the TIFIA part of the FAST law, we can finance a lot of projects and not build the projects in phases, but build them in one comprehensive way. I think we're exploring that in the transit area in Los Angeles and other areas, so we avoid building transit lines in phases. Now, why do we want to do that for your purposes? Well, the faster we can complete projects, complete whole projects, the quicker we can get our greenhouse gas emissions reduced, number one, reduce congestion. Of course, that's our major goal in transportation. And secondly, create the economic engine, the jobs that are created for our community. So I would like you to think about modifying your programs to work with us to take advantage of the federal criteria and tailoring your criteria to blend with the federal government and other agencies so we can maximize the return to California of these dollars. Now, these are grants, they're loans, lines of credit, private investment, securing more private investment. The type of projects could be the freight goods movement projects. I'm just going to mention financing border crossings. We have our great assemblyman here. We got to finance the border crossings. Senator Wesso keeps bringing that up to me. I mean, the congestion that exists there is causing a lot of pollution right there in those areas. So I think that if you can see it like this, I'll just say it like this. If we have a list of projects that we're trying to finance and we look like we can complete them in 30 years if we do a sort of a pay-as-you-go, and then we can develop a financing plan and complete them in 10 years, this is the kind of way we can increase our ability to use our money to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So when we look at transportation finance, that's what we're looking at. We're also looking at like private sector investments, railroads, getting the railroads to eliminate the dirtiest train engines that we have, eliminating congestion at the ports where there's truck railroad congestion, eliminating those congestion hotspots, the black carbon that comes out of those congestions, So what I'm talking about is I don't see the criteria, and if I don't see it, I'm going to have to do something about it, okay? I think we have to do something. We can't just idly sit back and have some kind of isolated program that doesn't return the maximum. And, quite frankly, I think we all agree with that. I mean, I don't see anybody that disagrees with this, Republican or Democrat. We want to get the return on our dollar. So I hope that we can kind of work with you on those issues, and I'd like to see some response. When I ask for like how much carbon emission reduction per dollar spent, I'm sort of getting at that. I'm not doing it for some idle kind of exercise. It's like I want to try to get as much money as I can from the federal government. I got all the members telling me they want this project, that project. That's part of the role of being the transportation chair. Every time I go into somebody's district, they want another project, and there's not enough money, or it's going to be built in 20 years, 30 years. Well, that's we can really achieve something if we develop a better strategy. Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to say that. I know I didn't take so much time, but I appreciate your work, and I hope that we can work together on that. And I'm offering to work and blend the needs for transportation finance with the California Air Resources Board. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Corey, please.
Thank you, Chair Bell. And actually, I think very well spoken, and it really also keys off a comment that Chair Frazier made before. In fact, I had the privilege of appearing for your committee, a few weeks ago. It was on the freight plan. And I'll be brief, but it's really important because I think it goes to both the chair's comments, which is if you looked at historically how we would look at freight, it would basically be through a fuels and technology perspective, which we're good at. We have a history of that, and we would look at it from a NOx reduction, toxics, GHG. But the whole concept behind the freight plan was to recognize there are other driving factors here. There is the economics. There's the opportunities for growth of the ports, the point that was made about throughput. And the fact of the matter is that can only be done through a partnership. It's really, some people may not be impressed with this, but historically we weren't at the table with CalSTA, Caltrans, GoBiz. We are at the same table, called out in that same executive order, and clearly it's many more stakeholders than just the agencies, but partnering with the freight sector, the freight industry, MPOs, from a planning standpoint, where are those opportunities that Chair Fraser talked about for improved efficiency? Where are the bottlenecks? Clearly, we've heard about some of the bottlenecks that you just touched on, and where are the emissions associated with that? And Chair Bell, we think if we stand together and have a cohesive strategy, that's what's going to position us best for those dollars, including federal dollars, to compete much more effectively, because you have a long-range strategic plan to deal with freight and to deal with environmental goals as part of that overall package.
Yes, I think that's right. I think we also have to talk about why the private sector will invest in California. I think if we have these plans, maybe we can, I hate to say it, but I'd love to have more investment in some of the repairs needed for all these plants, the oil facilities that keep having shutdowns that cause me and my constituents to pay more gasoline prices due to that. And I think those are issues too for the taxpayer in terms of the cost of transportation. And so we have to look at, finding out what keeping our values, but finding out what our common interests are for our constituents, so that we can achieve something. Even though we might not agree on a lot of things, there's always going to be some common areas that we can work on. And I think that's very important when we look at transportation and goods movement. We want to be as efficient as possible and achieve our long-range goals for reducing our pollution in our state. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. I want to kind of capture that. We don't want to be able to achieve our goals through unemployment. Okay? And so based on that, we know and have identified pinch points in diesel death zones due to congestion with what you have demonstrated is diesel, okay? A diesel component that is the mitigating factor. So we have Otay Mesa, which could be a huge project, would facilitate reduction in congestion at the ports, or at the border, at Tijuana. We also have, the 710, the 405, all of the ones that are the 580, 880 with the Oakland port. In these programs, these 50 wonderful programs, what we're saying is that because transportation dollars are constrained right now, we want private industry to be able to want to invest in California, and maybe they can become a partner in this delivery method of return to source and a return on their investment that makes and does better work with their dollars, that actually makes them more efficient and achieves your and my goal for clean air. And so I'm just going to go ahead and close right now, and then we'll go to public comment, because I want since you're up here, this has been frustrating for all of us. In addition to the weeks and weeks that staff have been working on this hearing, Senator Roth and Assemblymember Dodd and Baker have expressed very well the goals of this hearing, and that is, how do we measure the success of our individual programs? What are the outcomes that we as a legislature can expect? Very, very basic program evaluation. And I'm not all clear why getting this data has been and still is kind of elusive. I would have thought that, being from the private sector, that I was able to line item and capture every expenditure as a general contractor going forward with a basic program called Quicken. Okay. We're in the 10th year of this, and I hope that we do better as far as chronicling what we've asked for today. But let me be real clear. Based on the Senate budget hearing last week and on this hearing, it's safe to say we have a lot of work to do together. And I mean together. Let me be clear. I want this matrix filled out. I do. And I want to see the performance metrics and the specific measures you said you have. These measures, I want to see them. Because when I'm voting on that budget, I want to know that I'm voting on something that I have information on. And I feel good about what we're doing together. You're going to hear that a lot from me, together. I want to be a partner, a willing partner, to make you the most successful air program in the nation. Okay? And I want you to understand this is not a witch hunt. It's our responsibility as the legislature to make sure that the people's money is being spent in the most appropriate fashion. And we're willing to work with you, but I advise you, do not stonewall. Do not stonewall one bit. We're not asking anything from you that we shouldn't be asking from any governmental agency that we fund. And as you heard Senator Bell, the chairman of the Senate Transportation Committee, if he doesn't hear what he will make it happen. And I will partner with him. Let's do this together. I think this has been a great start. I think you'll notice that with the ability of having 12-year members now, there's not that constant churn and burn of membership that's going out and somebody could be waited out. There's 12-year members now. Let's make sure this program is effective and everybody is getting the best bang for their buck that we can absolutely be proud of. The economy, air quality, and quality of life. That's what it's all about, and I think that was the original intention. We all want to be stewards of the environment. So with that, I really do thank you. I really do thank you for coming here. I look forward to a very robust dialogue going forward, and we're going to become best friends. And I want to be your best friend. I want to be able to champion you everywhere. But do not forget the transportation component with congestion, please. So now we're going to move on, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy day. I really appreciate that. So now we're going to move on to public comment. Does anybody from the public like to respond today's hearing with suggestions, comments, moving forward? We are going to leave your comments to about 2 minutes, please, because we've taken up a lot of time of these members. And again, we will be doing another hearing based on performance metrics. Thank you. So please state your name and who you represent, and about 2 minutes, please.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, Bonnie Holmes-Jen with the American Lung Association in California. I'm pleased to be here. You know, what our position is that you can be proud of the success of the Air Resources Board, and we have our own data and our own measures of success. I wanted to share those with you. But here in California, as you know, I think we have a history of innovative technology forcing, precedent-setting regulations, and we're not talking about just 10 years. We're talking about over 40 years of history of working hard to meet our federal health-based air quality standards. And there's, of course, worldwide success and leadership from our State Air Resources Board. And each program that we've been talking about today, as has been expressed, is providing multiple benefits: smog, soot, toxics, greenhouse gases. And with all due respect, I don't think your chart is able to capture all of those benefits. So I'd like to look at how you could better capture the whole mix of benefits from all of these different pollutants that are being reduced. We do our own State of the Air report every year, as I mentioned, and we look at the number of unhealthy days for ozone and particle pollution measured in 2 different ways. We've done this report for over 16 years, and we've had data showing real progress in air pollution reductions over the years, which have translated to reduced hospitalizations and asthma attacks and other health incidents. Just as an example, in terms of reductions in smog and soot across the state over the past 16 years, over 38% reduction in unhealthy days for ozone in the LA metropolitan area. All the Bay Area counties experienced at least a 58% cut in unhealthful days for ozone. About a 50% reduction in Kern County. Just an example of some of the data that we collect. Also, we've done an analysis of 2 key climate programs, the low carbon fuel standard and the advanced clean car, and found over $8 billion in avoided health costs by 2025. So I'm just trying to give you a sampling of some of the data information we have. We agree there needs to be a partnership between the legislature and the ARB, and there has been. Want that to continue, and we agree there needs to be a return, and we think you are getting a return. And again, reductions in unhealthy days and tremendous health benefits. So we need to keep the momentum going forward.
Thank you. Please state your name and who you represent, please.
Hi, Colin Murphy, Next Gen Climate America. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, for bringing this forum together to discuss this really important topic. Also to staff, both from the committee and from ARB, for the work they've put into making this all happen. It's been very diligent and reflected in the materials put out. We understand why there's a focus from the committee on how the state spends its money. We recognize that's important, but we do think, sort of echoing what Bonnie just said, that the discussion is not complete without a discussion of the benefits as well. And many of the benefits that come from these programs are difficult to monetize in terms of the improvement of public health, as well as the technology forcing elements that ARB's proposals and plans over the past have put forward. If you just look over the last 10 years, electric vehicles have gone from kind of automotive curiosities in some way to something where there are, as Dr. Ayala mentioned, 37 models on the market that have won awards from mainstream automotive publications, and many of which have a lower lifetime cost of ownership than the competitive cars. That technology forcing doesn't happen without things like the ZEV mandate, but it's very difficult to monetize in a dollars per ton of emission how exactly that impacts the state. But the effects are massive and are incredibly important. Similarly, we think that the discussion is not entirely complete without a discussion of the cost of avoiding action. We're already starting to feel the effects of climate change, and there are many communities in the state that have been suffering the effects of poor air quality for many decades now. And to sort of look at the cost effectiveness of measures in some ways assumes that doing nothing is an option for many communities that isn't really an option, that they don't have the option to simply move somewhere else. They are suffering. And in California, we've seen the drought. We've seen a ski season pretty much lost to the previous year. We've seen the Dungeness crab season. All these things have been affected by climate change in some way, and the costs of doing nothing are pretty substantial as well. I would also point out that in a lot of cases, particularly...
I'm going to have you wrap up, please.
Sure, yeah. In the freight sector, it's often very difficult to find data to do the kinds of very granular dollars per ton metrics that you've been asking for. I think the legislature could potentially help in making that data more available. Thank you.
Please state your name and who you represent, please.
Good afternoon, chairs and members of the committee. My name is Viviana Becerra on behalf of the Consumers Union, the Policy and Advocacy Division of Consumer Reports. Consumer Union will be releasing a report in March that looks at many low-carbon transportation programs run by ARB, including the LCFS, light-duty GHG standards, ZEV, sustainable community strategies, and the cap-and-trade program. A couple of quick highlights of the report include that households will save between $1,200 and $1,500 annually by 2030 after accounting for the impacts of California's transportation policies, and that consumers will face considerably lower annual fuel expenditures moving forward. Secondly, we find that a combination of improved vehicle efficiency and reduced vehicle miles traveled from sustainable community planning will reduce lower income groups' exposure to fuel price shocks. And lastly, by 2030, we find that the total cost of ownership of alternative fuel vehicles and advanced vehicle technologies will be very competitive with, and in several cases, cheaper than conventional vehicles using gasoline. Consumers Union will be inviting you to a briefing on this report in the coming weeks, and we also have letters that we'd like to submit for the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name and who you represent, please.
Hi, good afternoon. Shreyas Jethgar with the Coalition for Clean Air. We're a group dedicated to restoring clean and healthy air in California, and also doing that through effective public policy and practical business solutions. First, I'd like to second the comments that were made by the previous three speakers, and focus on comments that have not yet been made. So I had a chance to go to Portland a couple weeks ago for a series of meetings, and there I actually met with some of our colleagues from the East Yard communities for environmental justice, and folks who live near the Port of Long Beach and L.A. And their stories really stuck with me, and I want to share those with you. That, you know, for some folks, their visit to their grandmother is one of pain and anguish. One member relayed the story that his grandmother can barely hold the spoon to feed herself because her hands are shaking so much due to neurological disorders from breathing in toxic tailpipe emissions for so long. And another story from Westmoreland in Imperial Valley, which Assemblymember Garcia, you represent so well. people talking about the highway of death, or the killer highway, from truck pollution and from idling trucks. So I appreciate that this committee is meeting and talking about the improvements to air quality from these programs. We couldn't agree more that these are important programs, and in fact that we need to do more. We still have too many residents of our state who are breathing polluted air and suffering from disastrous health impacts. On freight regulation, I do want to just talk about briefly some cost-benefit analysis that we've seen that the ARB has itself done over the years, and just talking about the return on investment, air quality improvement. Because of the severe and dramatic health costs, any air quality regulation really does have a high return on investment. In just the port sector alone, every dollar invested in pollution abatement results in $3 to $8 of health improvement. So that's a 300 to 800% ROI. On jobs and economic
development. I'm going to ask you to wrap up.
Sure. Just want to express that I think these regulations also create a positive economic benefit. We do see private industry like Proterra, BYD, Tesla investing in this state. Those are great jobs, good jobs that we should be encouraging. And I'll just end by saying I would ask that this committee think about the next hearing, also considering how, looking at the question of how can we maximize job creation and economic development from these low-carbon transportation investments.
Thank you. Thank you. Please state your name and who you represent, please. 2 minutes.
Jason Barbos. I'm with the Union of Concerned Scientists. We're a nonprofit organization that uses science to advance a healthier planet and a safer world. And we appreciate the attention being paid to these important ARB programs, and certainly also value the oversight role of the legislature in reviewing them. And we also understand the desire for more information about the performance of individual ARB regulations, and hope that there is some additional information that can be provided. The one comment I wanted to focus on was around, there's a lot of discussion about dollar per ton, and looking at that as a way to judge the merits of programs. And certainly it's a valuable metric, valuable criteria, but did just want to caution that there's obviously lots of other criteria and factors that influence whether a program is valuable. And just one example of that is that some measures are created to get incremental improvements, such as tailpipe emission standards. Others are created to foster transformational changes in our transportation system. Measures like the Zero Emission Vehicle Program or the Low Carbon Fuel Standard. And so we know we need these technologies, electric vehicles, low carbon fuels, to meet our long-term reduction goals, and therefore just looking at a dollar per ton metric may be insufficient to judging the value of those programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please state your name, who you represent, and you have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Hi, Diana Vasquez with Sierra Club, California. We represent 380,000 members and supporters throughout the state. And I just really want to echo what my colleagues who stated before about the co-benefits of really looking at these regulations, but also really emphasizing how the club has been a part of a lot of the working group meetings that you guys have been establishing with the rules and regulations that you guys have been implementing throughout these years. And we have been seeing really an extensive welcoming process where we can actually be involved and ask our members to be involved. And that's one of the things we really highly are satisfied with the process with CARB and other agencies. And moving forward, we look forward to working with the legislature and the agencies who are really trying to reduce our emissions from a particular matter and national ozone, and how do we move forward in implementing something that's strong and viable and clear for our constituency, but also our members in California. Thank you.
State your name and who you represent, please, and you have 2 minutes. And if it's anything the other speaker said, please say ditto.
Good afternoon, Chairman Fraser and members of the committee. Thank you for this session. I am with NRDC, Simon Mui, a senior scientist there. I have been actually looking at some of the compliance data around many of these major programs, including the Clean Cars, Low Carbon Fuel Standards, SB 375. I think it is a good data point to kind of look at going forward. Particularly what it's showing is that industry is actually outperforming in terms of the standards, going above and beyond in meeting our standards. The second issue I wanted to make sure that you're aware of is in terms of how we look at cost effectiveness, societal cost effectiveness, and not just in terms of the emission reductions, but also things like SB 375, travel savings, time savings. If you're spending a week traveling in traffic, that's a significant cost that you're trying to reduce there. So making sure that you're looking at a broad array of net societal benefits and not just one single factor, I think is important going forward. Finally, I'll just close off and say that in terms of some of the cost effectiveness, when we look at the technology challenges, the barriers we have in the marketplace, many of these policies are actually helping us get to a place where those future technologies, whether it's battery costs, whether it's low carbon fuels, are cost competitive. And that 10, 20-year look is very important in the societal cost effectiveness because we're going to be dealing with climate change and air quality for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Name and who you represent, please. You have 2 minutes.
Yes, hello. Last guy looking to be very brief. I'm Eric Carlson, Executive Director of Associated California Loggers, which puts me a little different than the previous speakers. We've been working with the Air Board since 2007 on phasing out the uniformly older trucks of our industry in rural wooded counties and coming up with solutions, including a log truck provision of the in-use bus and truck rule. On the other hand, we're looking towards this coming year to join with our fellow members of the rural wooded counties and rural counties to try to get more CARB money to the rural counties. We believe by the time the deadline arrives of 2023, you're looking at a train wreck in terms of an inability of folks, not only in the private sector, but in local governments in the 28 rural counties that have timber-type areas in them, being able to replace the trucks. To a certain extent, a lot of money has gone to the urban sectors and to the San Joaquin Valley Air District, and we understand that, but we do believe that you're going to have a need to look at the 28 wooded rural counties and the additional rural counties in the years to come. We'll see you later this year. Thank you.
Duly noted. So I'd like to thank all the members of our committee that has attended today. And Senator Bell, thank you very much for your attendance also. And always a pleasure to work with you on issues that we have a relative interest in. But there's no question that ARB has been successful. You guys have done some good stuff, really. What we are asking is for ARB to simply tell us how they're doing and be able to give us a measurement of how you're doing. That's all we're asking. And so I hope that we can move forward and attain this message, because this metrics, again, that we have on this spreadsheet has very little information, and I hope that we can fill those slots with information that we can be proud of. And if we're not, let's work on it together and how we can do it better. Okay? Let's move forward on this and do good work. So thank you very much for your participation. I look forward to a lively discussion going forward, and let's do this. Thank you so much.